All right, everybody. Good morning. As we jump into this Wednesday morning call, we've got a really cool one planned for you guys today because you're going to get to hear from an agent who, ever since I've met him, he has just done big things. He's hit every single agent trip that we have put out there. He's always in the top 10 year to date. And so stay tuned. You're going to get to hear from him. You're also going to get to hear how he just unlocked, I think it was almost a $400,000 annuity. And he went through a lot of work to put his clients in the best situation. So we're going to jump into that here shortly. But before we do that, I want to give you guys just a huge shout out. Check out some of these agents who just pushed really hard last night. All right. So, guys, it's one thing to set a goal, but it's another thing to continue to push for it, even when you might be having a tough day. And I know these agents pushed all day yesterday and put in the work, the late night work to come out on top. So I want to give Sam a big shout out because she closed this policy, I think close to 8 o'clock at night. And she set a goal. She said she was not going home until she got on the board, and she fulfilled that goal. So nice work to you, Sam. Big shout out to Angela dropping some late night production at 8:30, putting in the work, the power night. Big shout out to Jess for doing the same thing. Jess has been pushing hard, and she got her one at like almost 9 o'clock last night. So, guys, talk about some dedication out there. So, nice work to you, Jess. Big shout out to Willie. Willie always finds a way to make it happen. 7 o'clock at night. I think he said he was getting his haircut and writing a life insurance plan at the same time. So, big shout out to Willie for locking down that production. And then let's give Ladasha a big, huge congratulations for hitting her very first sale here at FFA, working along Team Honey Rock. So super proud of you. Congrats for hitting that first policy. But guys, sometimes, hey, that's what you have to do in order to win in this. Sometimes you got to push till late night to find those people that weren't at home or weren't answering their phone. So want to give them a big shout out for never giving up. All right. It's true testimony, working hard like that. Let's jump into the verse of the day as we jump into this call. By far, one of my favorite verses says, "In me, you may have peace. In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." All right. This is my favorite verse, probably out of any of them, because when you have a relationship with him, the peace that you can actually feel, it doesn't matter what happens in this world, doesn't matter what gets thrown at you, right? That peace takes over anything that could possibly hit you in this world. So if you've never looked into that, I would encourage you, try to build that relationship up, right? Just try it, see what happens, see if you could feel that peace that comes with believing in him. I promise you, it makes such a difference going at this life when you have that guarantee that's in that verse right there. So love that verse. But guys, as we jump into today's call, I want you to take a lot of notes because you're going to get to hear from Paulo. I know so many of you have asked to have Paulo on the call, right? But you're going to get to hear from him, and you're going to get to see what goes into being a top agent, right? Not just a top agent once a week, right? Or once a month, but top agent in the whole year for multiple years that he's been doing this. So Paulo, without further ado, man, I'm going to add you into the live feed. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Ryan.
How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Well, hey, shout out to you, dude. I appreciate you for jumping on here because you've been at the top of the chart, right? Ever since I can remember, just always doing big things. I'm excited to talk about this annuity that you uncovered here this past week. But Paulo, what's a tip you have for an agent, right? You've been doing this for years now. You've always been consistent, always worked hard. What's a tip that you would have for a brand new agent that's making this their career like you've done, so to find the success like you've seen over the past few years?
Just be consistent, pretty much. I remember when I first started in insurance, it was back in 2020. And I was transitioning from I used to be a residential painter. And so I did that for like 10 years. But I had been wanting to switch careers for a long time. and insurance was just like my way out. I had tried to, like, for example, just get my real estate license, never passed the test.
Mhm.
I went to a web developing boot camp, wasn't my thing. So insurance was kind of, I was hoping insurance was the thing that will get me out of this industry. Um, and so, yeah, once I saw the opportunity, I just went 100% for it. And so at first it was all consistency. I was just, working every single day. Sometimes I had to, well, I picked a place to work that was about an hour and a half away from Charlotte. I
Mhm.
just found that it was easier to sell away from Charlotte. Um, and it worked out, So for literally the first year, I was driving a lot. I was driving about an hour and a half to get to that place, then back home, and I did that for a long time. And then I was staying in that place for every week, and so yeah, I just remember those days, And so
Mhm.
consistency, 100%, and you have to work as much as you can, almost as if your life depends on it.
I love that, man. I love that. Love that tip. And I know you probably got that work ethic from doing the residential painting, right? Like that's a grinding industry. You don't finish the job, you're not getting paid. I can relate to that with construction too. What
100%. And then your clients just look up to you, make your home look nice, and do a
Mhm.
good job. And I never wanted to leave a house where my client was not happy,
Mhm.
and yeah, I did pretty good work. I ended up painting Michael Jordan's apartment at some point.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So he has an apartment here in Uptown Charlotte. But yeah, it got me to that place. Like
Mhm.
a lot of people wanted me to paint their homes and do some type of remodeling. Um, but yeah, it was hard work. I just got tired of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that, man, doing the construction like I did before too. It's one of those things, it's like you can do very good in that industry, but it is a grind every single day. It's a grind finding the jobs, going out there. So, what's been your biggest, I guess, benefit from doing this industry, Paulo, compared to that one? Like if you could think of like what this industry's awarded you versus what that one maybe couldn't, what would you say?
Um, Definitely making more money, 100%. Um, Being able to do this on my own. Um, I mean, you can be a solo agent for as long as you want,
Mhm.
Um, with the construction industry, you have to hire employees, right? And the bigger the job, the more people you need to help you. So a lot of the times you depend on whether the workers are going to show up or not. So
Mhm.
that was very stressful during the summertime. It was incredibly stressful because I would have all the jobs I could want, but then the workers were not there. So
Mhm.
um, being able to definitely make more money, not rely on other people, right? Um, and just the opportunity is there, So um, yeah, definitely this is going to be a big year for me. I have some pretty big goals, so yeah, that's what I'm going for.
It's awesome, dude. I'm looking forward to seeing you hit that. Let's talk about like schedule and leads. So I named like the top of this call becoming a top agent, right? Because you've always been in the top. But how do you go about your week? Like how many days you're working, what kind of leads? How do you view all of that? Like give an agent basically a formula, right? This many leads, this many days, this is what you could see.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Um, First of all, you need to have as many leads as you can possibly buy, right? I mean, of course, I mean, just buy enough leads. If I pick a brand new county where I have never worked at before,
Mhm.
I want to have at the very least, 40 leads. Um, I say at the very least, but I always buy like 100, 120, whatever.
Mhm.
I just want to be able to have as many leads as I can have, so I don't have to drive so much in between homes. So leads is number one, and then Second thing, just having a schedule where maybe you're working from knocking homes from 10 to 5, 10 to 6 or something like that. Summer's coming, so we're gonna have longer days. So
I know,
set it
I'm
up
looking
that
forward
way
to
for
that.
sure. Say what again?
That I'm looking forward to that time switching back.
Me too. Me too.
Mhm.
But longer days definitely it's a plus. So you can be going to people's homes around 7 p.m. and it's still daylight out there.
Mhm.
So leads having a pretty solid, steady schedule where you're working Monday through Friday. Try to work sometimes on Saturdays, maybe half a day or something like that, or maybe schedule some appointments for Saturday. Right? People that are under 65 are probably still working, and maybe if you weren't able to catch them during the week, more than likely you're gonna catch them on the weekends.
Mhm.
So yeah, I feel like those are number one, the top tips for that.
It's awesome, man. Now, do you go out there and door knock first, or do you try to book appointments before you go visit with people?
I've never really tried to book appointments. I
Mhm.
know I can. I know I can make calls, late at night
Yeah.
or whatever, but never really tried. Never really
Mhm.
tried that. Yeah, I just go there, knock on the door, and if they're not home, to the next one because I have enough leads, right?
Yeah.
I do want to make sure that on my route tracker, I always put um, the age bracket of the lead, right? It can
Mhm.
be, if it's 70 to, well, if they're in their 70s, I just put 70s. But
Yeah.
if it's like 65 to 70, I put
Mhm.
65s. Or if they are, under 65 or between 60 and 65, I just put 60s,
Mhm.
because people that are under 65 more than likely are probably going to be still working, or maybe they are
Mhm.
not home, unlike people that are in their 70s. Most of the time they are
Right.
home, so they are the ones that I'm going to, those are my number one priorities, right?
Mhm.
70s and 65s are going to be my number one priorities. Probably 70s more because their premiums can be a bit higher. um, and so yeah, I try to hit
Mhm.
those first, then 65s, and then just whatever is in between.
Yeah.
I mean, if there is a house, um, let's say I just went to knock on a house, and they weren't home, and just around the corner there's like a lead. Um, there's a person that's in their 50s. I'm still gonna knock on that house just because it's around the corner. You just
Mhm.
never know.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that my priority are people that are retired already.
Mhm. That's a great tip, man. A lot of agents don't do that, but if you really think about how much time that has saved you over the years, it's
Totally.
probably very significant, versus driving to people that, like you said, are working or have a higher likelihood of not being at home during the daytime. Being able
Exactly.
to prioritize that's a good tip.
Totally. And if you're working in the mountains, for example, like it can be, you can be driving for like 15 minutes to get to that house.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's saved me time for sure, and it's worked so far. So
that's awesome, dude. Now, what's been the hardest thing for you as an agent, right? Running to be a top agent. What's been the hardest thing doing this door-to-door grind?
hardest thing, man, I can think of one single really hard thing. I remember that in the beginning, I wasn't too confident.
Mhm.
So, and I think that was because I was trying to follow someone else's script, right?
Right.
Um, but then like something clicked and I started writing down my own thing, what I wanted to say, how I wanted to
Mhm.
introduce myself, how I wanted to make my own presentation that fit my personality, the things I wanted to say to the client to connect with them and all of that. And after I did that, things got a lot easier for me.
Mhm.
So um, a tip I will give to a new agent is write your own script, right? You need to have a script, right? So, but write your own presentation. I know that when you are first starting in this business, your coach is probably helping you out, say this, say that, whatever, or follow whatever steps, right?
Mhm.
But just sitting down, once you have that information, then just sit down and just write your own presentation. Write your own presentation, come up with your own stories, and that's just going to help you be more genuine with the client, and they can see that. They can sense that. This client that I have, the one I'm doing this annuity for, we just clicked. I met him back in 2021, and he loves to talk. He asks a lot of questions, but I share with him pretty much the way I grew up, my life, and he loves that. So that's why he's been such a great client to me over the years. And so I met him back in 2021, and then I just saw him 2 weeks ago after 4 years, and he still remembers where I'm from, asking me questions about my parents. He just remembers everything. So yeah, once you are like that, once you are very transparent with your clients, they're gonna see that, and then they trust you. So
yeah, that's a key. I think like with the presentation, everything like that it's a guide, but if you're not being yourself when you're talking to people, people can sense that. They can sense that something's off. So just like you said, dude, if you could just the more you be yourself, the more confident you'll be, whether it's on the phone, in the house, really anything. The more you can be yourself, the better. So that's a great tip, man. Let's talk about this annuity. So give everybody an idea, man, because I know you've done so much for these people, right? You've taken them to the bank, you've gotten everything worked out for them. But give everyone an idea, just like how you were able to present this annuity here just a few weeks ago. I know you just finished it up, writing it up yesterday, but just give everybody an idea of like the situation and how you found that here recently.
Totally. So like I said, I met him back in 2021, and at the time, he still has a ton of policies between annuities and life insurance policies, right? So back then, I think I was just doing the policy review, and he just handed me like a stack of policies. And then I saw a bunch of carriers that I didn't even recognize, and then life insurance, right? So first I helped him with the life insurance. I got him with AIG, and his wife with Foresters, I believe. And then I started calling all of these companies, annuity companies. So I had the fact finder on my iPad, and I was just asking all kinds of questions that I didn't even understand at the time.
Right. That was too, real quick, Paulo, on this one. It was interesting how talk about like follow up, right? So you met him in 2021, and I know back then he had a lot of annuities that he had taken out that you couldn't do anything with back then because of the surrender fee schedule and stuff. But here, years later, I think we were able to get him almost a $40,000 bonus.
Yeah.
By upgrading those old annuities into a new one now. So what was, when you were talking to him about those things, right? About the annuities, the money, I know you helped him out with all of that. What were some tough points for you? Because I know you said like you took down all the information, but you didn't necessarily understand it, right? Walk an agent through that process. They find their first annuity, a client. What's the system look like for them as far as taking down the information, calling the carriers? Was it really overwhelming for you? Was it pretty simple? Just give them an idea.
It wasn't overwhelming. I think at that time I was already used to calling so many carriers, so that was just one more carrier. So it wasn't overwhelming at all. But I did try to fill out this fact finder as much as I could, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I would just ask the questions that the fact finder was asking, and the people over the phone, they just answer every single one of them. It wasn't, they understood what I was asking, and so yeah, it wasn't hard. It was pretty simple. Client trusted me at that time to call whatever carrier and find out if he was in a good situation with annuities. So so yeah, it was pretty simple. It was just like calling a life insurance carrier. Hey, I'm here with Mr. Hill. We're just trying to find out some information about his annuity.
Hmm.
When then you begin with the questions. When was the policy issued? What type of product is it? What's the account value? Is there a surrender fee? Those are the top questions, right? Because you want to know how much money is in it, and then if there is a surrender fee, right, or a surrender charge. Because that right there is going to tell you if the surrender charge is, I don't know, like 10%,
Hmm.
or 9%. That can be a bit too much. So more than
Yeah.
likely, there's not much you can do there, right? So yeah, it wasn't overwhelming at all. He had 4 annuities at the time, so I just called every single one of them. I was on hold for like an hour with one,
Yeah.
an hour and a half with the other one, I remember. But I was determined to get that information because at that time, I mean, it was my job, right?
Hmm.
To make sure that he's in a good situation and all. And so yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but I can
Yeah.
keep on going with this
Yeah,
line.
no, it definitely did, man. I think a lot of agents shy away from that because they don't fully understand those questions, surrender schedule,
Right.
surrender fees. But it's just like you said, all you have to do is ask it, write it down. And
Exactly.
then, like me and you did, over the past week, just quick couple phone calls, explaining different things, figuring out what's best for them. And then it's a very simple process once you could do that. So, one thing,
Absolutely.
Paulo, with what you were able to do for him to give everyone an idea. So, the guy had 4 annuities. And this was funny, right? When you were talking, we presented to him, bundling them together,
Hmm.
how much of a bonus he would get. I think his total bonus was almost $30,000 to $40,000 just for upgrading that.
Hmm.
And then he was like, "Well, what if I have money in the bank? Can I add to it?" So like that was pretty interesting to see him
Yeah.
want to make it even bigger than what it was. But when you were doing the annuity, Paulo, did you run into any hiccups as far as um, maybe the client not wanting to disclose everything, right? Like with annuities, you have to do a suitability page that talks about
Right.
how much money they have, checking account, savings, retirement, everything, because
Mhm.
the insurance company has to make sure that this product is suitable. It's not going to put them in a financial bind. The only way to do that is to get a good idea of what their situation is. Walk an agent through asking those questions, right? Because sometimes clients kind of like they don't want to talk about that stuff, right? It's personal information. But how were you able to get him to open up to you with that?
Um, Honestly, I didn't try. I just asked the
Mhm.
questions,
Right.
and it was that one particular question that I asked him. Do you
Hmm.
have any other real estate, right? And he was like, "Why? Why do they need to know that?"
Right.
So I knew where he was coming from. It's not that he
Mhm.
didn't trust me. It's
Yeah.
just that he just doesn't want his business to be put out there.
Sure.
Um, so he vaguely answered the question, like, "Yeah, I have 2 properties, one in Wilmington
Hmm.
and one in somewhere else." And so yeah, I mean, I didn't push any further,
Yeah.
because I think I texted you right away, but at the time I
Mhm.
didn't think it was necessary to just get like all the details about it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but then after I talked to you and I understood why they asked that, why they have that suitability page, right?
Hmm.
And I had an idea, but again, last time I did an annuity was with him back in 2021. So
Hmm.
the next day, yesterday when I was taking him to the bank, he was like, he actually revisited that question. He like opened up. He was like,
Yeah.
yeah, so I was just thinking about that, why they want to know that. And then
Hmm.
I told them, they
Yeah.
want to know that that not all your money is going towards the annuity, that you have a place to live, that you have money in
Hmm.
the bank.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it just comes down to how you present the question, right?
Hmm.
Maybe next time I'll be like, okay, I'm filling out the application, and there is a suitability page. They are gonna ask you some questions that may be a bit personal, but the only reason they ask these questions is because so and so, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that will be a better way to present it next time. It's probably similar to when you're filling out when you're doing a life insurance policy. At some point, you have to ask, for the Social Security, right? Before the bank account. I remember I used to get very nervous about that, right? But nowadays, I don't even give them a heads up, hey, we're going to ask you this and that. But before, I would tell them, hey, they're going to ask some questions, just letting you know, but this is just so they have an idea who you are, and so they can understand how healthy you are and whatnot. That's the reason why they are asking for your social, right? So maybe next time, that's the way I will present it.
Yeah. And that's a good tip, man. That's usually what I'll say is I'll say, hey, look, I know most people don't like talking about this stuff, but the reason they ask it is because they want to make sure this isn't going to put you into a financial bind.
Right.
And then you just kind of go into it that way. Another thing, guys, with annuities for Paulo's client, I love that he was able to uncover all of this because his client's goal was to leave the money, right, for his family. It's to grow it and leave it. He doesn't really need it. He's not trying to draw money off of it. He's in a great financial spot. And Paulo was able to get him, I think it was 11 to 13% bonus on his money just for upgrading that account. And so a lot of you guys are running into clients that they probably have these same types of products, just like Paulo's client did, but they don't know that you can help them with it. So don't be afraid to talk about annuities, to explain how they work, because a lot of your clients are in a situation where they might have been like Paulo's client. They took out annuities years ago, didn't even know why, right? They've just been sitting there doing nothing, and they don't know that they can do things with them. So it's a really good opportunity. And I think one of the best things about it is everyone wins in the situation, right? Your client wins because they get a really big bonus. They get put in a really good situation. Their family wins because that money is probate free. It doesn't go through probate like as if they had money sitting in a checking or savings account. The agent wins because they get paid a commission from the carrier, and that commission does not come out of your client's money. It's totally separate, right? And then there's no fees on these things for the most part, right? There's not like a yearly management fee on the majority of these, like they would probably be getting charged inside their 401k or their IRAs and stuff. So it's just a phenomenal product for people that you guys sit with every single day, helping them out with their life insurance and all of that. And for agency production and trip, right, Paul, I don't know if you know this, right, but we count 10% of all annuity production towards trips, promotion, and all that. So if you're doing $400,000 annuity, that's 40K of production, right? So it's a phenomenal thing. But Paulo, what's a closing tip you'd have, man? You've crushed the annuities, crushed the life insurance, always done really good. What's a closing tip you would have for an agent that just wants to run and just make this the best year yet for them?
Don't get discouraged. You're gonna have bad weeks or bad days. There was one time I had a terrible week. I worked like literally every single day and I sold nothing. It was like super discouraging. But I just kept on going. You just have to keep moving. And you're supposed to have, bad days. That's just the way life is. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have bad weeks. You're going to have bad months. Expect them, but prepare yourself to how you're going to react whenever those times come. That's the number one thing. So yeah, I think that's where, at least that when I'm going through those times, I just try to remind myself how I reacted, before when I was going through a hard time. So yeah, you just gotta keep moving.
It's awesome, man. Love that tip. Keep moving, guys. Take Paulo's words of wisdom, right, and run with them. He's crushed this industry month in and month out, and you can do the same if you take those tips and run for them. So Paulo, I appreciate you for jumping on here, man. Hats off to you. Nice job on that annuity too, buddy. Appreciate the tips you shared today. Awesome. So hey guys, look, that's all we got for you. It's Wednesday. All right, take Paulo's words and run with them this week. All right, just like he said, if you're in a slump, if you get into a slump, he went a whole week, right? Didn't close anything. It happens to all of us, but you got to always remember something. Numbers will always come back in your favor. So if you had a really good day out there yesterday, you better be expecting today to be extra tough. You're going to have to work twice as hard to get the same result. If you had a bad day yesterday, didn't close anybody, sat down with a lot of people, you better be expecting today to just be a phenomenal day, because the numbers are in your favor and the numbers don't lie. So if you put in the work, you're going to get rewarded for it. But I appreciate you guys for jumping on this call today. Appreciate Paulo for sharing those tips. Let's go close out the second half of this week strong, and we will be back here on Friday.